This is Debbie Rochon, and you're listening to Without Your Head.
All right, and welcome back to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm still Nasty Neil.
I remain terrible, Troy.
And we're joined by the returning Gregory Lamberson. It's very cool to have you back here.
Welcome back.
It's very cool to be back.
Excellent. So last time we had you on, we were talking about Johnny Gruesome, you making it and stuff, and now Johnny Gruesome's out. And, this was a story that you had for a long time. So what is that like to finally get your this project out and for people to see it?
Well, I will tell you that the 32 years that it took to make the movie were nothing compared to the year of waiting after we finished shooting the movie. I honestly feel like I've spent more time waiting for it to come out than I did to make it.
Why did it take a year for it to come out?
We got interest from a distributor fairly early, and it just took like 7 months to get the contracts all worked out.
Wow.
I had a friend broker the deal for me, and he kept making movies, and I kept making movies, and the distributor kept making movies. And it just did not come together as quickly as I would have liked.
Mm-hmm. So what's the reaction been like? I know it's has it been officially released yet?
The release date is Tuesday, October 16th.
That's right. Okay.
And I don't know, there's maybe a dozen reviews so far, and I would say 9 are really good, and the other 3 are either mediocre or not good at all. So I think that's a pretty good ratio.
Oh, yeah. I'll take that percentage.
The people that like it seem to really get what the vibe is supposed to be. And, I can understand if sort of an 80s type film isn't your thing, or if a movie about high school students isn't your thing. I understand all that. So it's not for everybody. It's for a very specific type of horror fan.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because you had the story since the 80s. So it's not like you made it to be like a retro. You know what I'm saying? So how much of that did you make when you're making it? Did you make it to feel like a retro movie, or is it basically the same story that you had when you wrote it originally?
The script that we shot was incredibly close to the script that I wrote in 1984 when I was 19 years old. I fleshed the story out incredibly for the novel, but most of that extra material didn't go in because I couldn't fit it into a 90-minute movie made on our budget. So it's very close. And just because I was a teenager when I wrote it in the early 80s, that's what's in its DNA. That's what it's made about. I think the style of filmmaking is more contemporary than an 80s film, but I've made this point before. Lloyd Kaufman and I, one similarity we have is we've both been making movies since the 80s, and that's how we know how to make movies. So we're not trying to emulate another period. I modernized it, and that the kids have cell phones, and even though the main car is an older car, they're driving modern cars and stuff. They're in today's world, but they were just created, in a different time. So there's some looks that I think are a little more modern. We did make an effort. Johnny doesn't wear the classic motorcycle jacket. He wears a more contemporary style leather jacket with a hoodie. So, there's little efforts to update it, but no efforts were made to make it retro.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned Lloyd Kaufman. On him real quick, because the movie he's making now, he says it's his last movie he's ever going to direct. So how long have you known Lloyd Kaufman? I would say I saw him at a bunch of conventions. He used to really annoy me when I got put opposite the Trauma table, because they would have these really loud guys hawking in megaphones and stuff, and they just totally dominated the floor. Uh-huh. But the first time I really got to know him at all was when he came out to do a cameo for Slime City Massacre, which is back in 2009. And he acted in Killer Rack, which is a film of mine, and I've had dinner with him a few times, and I've helped some of his people when he shot here in Buffalo. He's butt dialed me by mistake, so I would say we're actually genuine friends at this point. Yeah, once you're butt dialed, I think that's the sign of true friendship.
Although he butt dialed me by mistake. He thought he was butt dialing someone else.
Do you think it will be his last movie?
Pardon?
Do you think this will be? Yeah.
I don't know. He's in his early 70s, and I think he had a knee replaced.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still the movie he's shooting right now is a much more low budget film than the two Newcomb High movies that he shot here in Buffalo. And I just think there comes a point where why do you want the constant struggle to get something made? So I think it would be cool if it is his last movie and he knows that going in. And, one thing I like about his few films, he and I disagree on politics fairly extremely, but I love that his films have his vision in them. They have his attitudes, they have his opinions on politics. And I think his is a voice that it's important to have out there. And hopefully, the company will continue in some form, even if he stops directing.
Yeah. So back to go on. Sorry,
because he makes a lot of bank when he does these conventions, so there's no way he's staying at home. I've been in touch with him, and I've tried to schedule different screenings for the festival, and he's been flown to Russia, and he travels all over the world by these events that want to have him around. So, he can kick back and just live sort of like a celebrity if he wants.
Yeah. It is wild to think though that Troma movies are seen all over the world.
Well, hopefully all movies are seen all over the world.
That's very true. It's very true.
That isn't the case.
Right.
Just today, I found out that Amazon has taken down my movie Killer Rack. Apparently,
really?
Because there is 1 2-second shot of a boob.
Oh my God!
And their comment to my distributor was that it's just very porny, porn-y, which couldn't be farther from the truth. It's a very kind of sweet gore movie. It's not offensive at all.
Yeah, I've seen Killer Rack. It's very, very fun movie, and it's not. I could definitely not call it porny, but I've noticed a lot of my independent filmmaker friends have been having a lot of trouble in the last few years with Amazon.
I'm aware of that, and my heart goes out to them. However, they're making very edgy, rough movies. So if this is going to be Amazon's stance, as much as it sucks, at least I understand it. It just shouldn't apply to this film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, my film's no more offensive than a Mel Brooks movie,
Oh, definitely. Do you think it's a lot of it is because it is an independent movie? So,
well,
you don't get much leeway?
Have their knives sharpened for independent horror films. And I think if you have the combination of blood and nudity, you're going to have a hard time. But most of the boobs in my movie are fake boobs. They're ridiculously fake.
Right.
And they're lumpy.
Very non-porny.
When it came out, one of the funny things, I laughed when reviewers would say this is, it's a movie called Killer Rack and there's hardly any boobs in it. There's 1 2-second shot. Just because of the content, the title, the poster we had a girl who would have been naked if she wasn't, if the logo wasn't over her boobs. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I don't think they've even watched the movie. I think it's just their assessment. So, we're gonna see what we can do and how we can remarket it. And one thing about me is I don't let a project languish. I made a film, and I have an obligation to my investors, and I'm going to do everything I can to keep it out there.
Mm-hmm. How important is Amazon for independent movies?
Amazon streaming is probably 70% of the revenue that an independent filmmaker can make. It's huge. Mm-hmm. And, this is sort of what companies do. They monopolize, and then they raise their prices, and they dictate content, like Blockbuster tried to do for a time when they were editing movies. And it's bullshit. It's real bullshit.
Yeah. So is that something you have to keep on over the, if you're making movies over decades, you have to change with the time and know, like, one time you VHS and you would do DVD and now it's streaming. You have to keep up with the technology.
Well, sure. You got to know how, what's available to you as a filmmaker to get your work out there and to hopefully make a buck. In my case, my investors will get any money that comes in. I'll be lucky if I ever see a penny of profit in my lifetime, but I want that money going to them. That's why people invest in my films, because they know I'm not going to, just let this one fall by the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
Got to take it seriously.
This might be a silly question, but I would understand. I don't make much money doing the show or anything, but for someone listening and for them to hear you say like you might not make a penny profit, why do you continue making movies?
Well, that one was just a very funny screenplay, and I really wanted to make it. Mm-hmm. But I made a decision after I'd finished it. I said, I really love this film, and I don't want to wait 3-4 years for it to catch on to make my next movie. I'm gonna make an effort to make this film Johnny Gruesome. And I had been working for my friend Chris Ray, Fred Ray's son, on a number of films. Most of them were Fred Ray films that had like $250,000 budgets. And I learned how to make that type of film for that kind of budget. And I said, I want to step up to the plate and do that. So that's the type of budget I had for Johnny Gruesome. And that's the budget that I had for the film I just finished shooting, Widow's Point. And I don't pay myself a lot for those, but I do pay myself a salary. And my wife gets a salary. Where the point of having that budget is so that you can pay a professional crew and professional actors. Well, you have to be a professional and pay yourself as well. So I'm at a different level now than I was when I made Killer Rag.
Okay. So how did you choose what shirts Johnny wears in the movie?
What shirts he wears? Do you mean like the brand name bands I had?
Yeah.
I made up a list of bands that I really liked, and like the Ramones was one that I wanted, and I got. I wanted Alice Cooper and couldn't cut through the red tape. I wanted Ozzy and couldn't cut through the red tape. My friend Armand Petrie, who did the music for both Johnny Gruesome and Killer Rag, he and his partner Joe Rosler had worked with Manowar, so they had an easy in there. So I was able to get that, no problem. So Manowar and Ramones were like the two big ones, and then there are a bunch of indie bands that were recommended to me by friends.
Mm-hmm. So you were a teenager when you wrote Johnny Gruesome. Is Johnny Gruesome anything like you at that age?
Both of the main characters, Johnny and his friend, are both parts of me. But the whole story is evocative of the high school that I went to and the town. Mm-hmm. And when I turned it into a book, I was in my 30s, 40s when I turned it into a book. And going back to revisit that material, I had to find ways to make it more interesting for myself. So making it somewhat nostalgic about my high school life was one of the ways that I made it interesting for me to write.
Yeah. Had anybody that you knew, any high school friends, have they seen the movie or read the book?
Oh, quite a few have read the book. They would only see the movie if I shared it, and I'm not sharing it.
Right, yeah.
You can't be released that Tuesday.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I didn't think about that, but yeah, that makes sense. So it comes out the 16th. Where is it going to be screened?
Well, it'll be on all the big platforms, the video on demand platforms. I don't have a list. I'm sure it'll be on Amazon Prime. Not for free. You'll have to pay for it.
Sure.
iTunes. All the major ones.
Yeah. So what was it about Anthony that made him write for Johnny?
All the years that I was contemplating making this movie and thinking, what if, I never once saw an actor that I thought, oh, that's the perfect one. It would always be settling for someone who played a similar leather jacketed character but wasn't really authentic. Mm-hmm. And I knew going into this that was my main thing. I had to get the right person for him. He sent in a headshot like anybody else. I said, oh, he's got the look. But he also sent me links. He's a musician. He sent me links to some of his music videos. And he's an authentic rocker. And I've loved the music videos. And he sent me an audition tape for the movie Lords of Chaos, the movie coming out soon about the black metal church burnings in Norway. Mm. And it was him doing a monologue while he was sharpening a knife. Everything that I got from him in the first 24 hours screamed, this is the guy. And I remember waking my wife up at like 4 a.m. saying, you got to come see this. And she was like, oh, yeah, that's him. So I knew he was perfect. He was the best person I'd ever seen or considered for that part. And it worked out for the best.
Yeah. So do you know how many people you did see? No one caught your eye, but how many people had you seen for that role?
I took out an ad for Backstage, and you list 5 or 6 parts and get maybe 1,500 responses. And for Johnny Gruesome, I think I was looking at 3 guys. Anthony was the only one that was a definite yes. One guy was pretty cool, but he was clearly too old. I wanted someone who looked convincing as a high school student. And another guy looked good, but when I saw his audition, I realized that his personality was that he was a total goofball, and he'd be better for a comedy than for a horror film.
Yeah. So, you said it took a year for the movie to actually get out once it was filmed, but how long did it take to film Johnny Gruesome?
18 days, which is
wow
average for me. I spent 18 days, I think, on Slime City Massacre, Killer Rack. I mean, you always go back and maybe shoot a couple of pickups, maybe do a half day of pickup somewhere in there, but basically 18 days.
Do you edit the movies yourself?
No. I edited my first 2 films, Slime City and Undying Love, which were both done on film. Mm-hmm. As from my 3rd film, Naked Fear, which we started editing in 95. We didn't finish that film to 99 for a whole bunch of reasons. I've had the same editor for over 20 years. A guy named Phil Gallo, who's directed a couple of films of his own. He actually, with a partner, did the scores for the original Mother's Day and The Redeemer. So he's not a horror guy, but he's an excellent editor, and he's editing my new one right now. He's sending me the footage. He's in New York City and I'm in Buffalo, but he just emails me links and I give him feedback, and we've got a great working relationship. And anytime I get involved in a project, I let people know he is the one part of my operation that has to be included. I will not do a film if I have to have a different editor.
Yeah. Why is that? Does you think he gets like, what you're going for in your movies?
He does. He has a different sensibility. I often ask for changes and then he makes them very quickly. But I tend to, when you shoot a movie, you're very excited about what you're seeing. Mm-hmm. And then you watch the dailies and you see what you've actually got. And instead of seeing everything that works, you see everything that didn't work. And I tend to really worry about things that I think aren't going to work. And he's always been able to solve the problems really easily. Now I don't even worry. I just know it. He doesn't have an ego. He doesn't insist on doing things his way. And our process is I select all the takes and I generally give him an idea of how I want a scene edited. And if he wants to try something different, I'll look at it. But usually it's pretty much what I want.
Mm-hmm. I always assume it would be really hard to edit your own stuff because I would think anyway, like you'd get connected to something that not necessarily works in the movie, but you remember filming it and being there and having a good time or something. So for me, it always seems like it'd be very hard to edit your own thing.
I think so too. I know filmmakers who insist on editing their own films. In some cases, like Larry Fessenden, who's an old friend of mine, he's a true artist, and if he says he does the best job editing, I believe. He wants his hands on every little cut. But then I know other people who probably shouldn't edit their own films. I look at them and I see, he didn't realize this needed to be cut down. He didn't realize this languished. He doesn't, you have a lot of dialogue in a script, and when you have a finished movie, if a scene is dragging, you have to be willing to cut some of that dialogue. And some people just become too attached to their own words, I think. Yeah. I prefer to have a fresh set of eyes and somebody who will see things that maybe I don't, but who understands what I'm trying to get. And quite honestly, it would take me so much longer to edit a film. And, I'm shooting, like I said, I'm shooting at a different level now. The last film, Johnny Gruesome, we shot in 6K. You need to have a real professional editing system to handle 6K. It's a lot of memory. And the one we just shot was shot in 8K. And the RAM on his system is having a hard time with it.
Yeah.
I just know that if I did modern editing on these computers and stuff, I'm constantly calling my wife to help me because the toolbar on my screen has disappeared. I do not want to be the guy handling all this. I want the best edit I can have, and that means using somebody else.
Yeah, I can imagine. Because I know just editing videos I do for interviews or whatever, and I just have the HD camera, and it can take up a lot of space. and it can be very slow, processing, whatever. So I can't imagine how big those files would be and how time consuming that would be.
My new film, I had an assistant editor sync up the footage with the sound, and it took him about a month because he does it in his spare time, and that's fine. But we actually started actual picture editing about a week ago, and we've already got 30 minutes of the film edited. I couldn't have done it. He can do it. I can't. And one of the reasons he can do it is he spends a week or two just organizing the footage and the folders, and I don't have the patience to be that meticulous in organizing things. I would just want to get right into it, and I'd make a mess of things.
Yeah. So another guy I know you worked with a lot is Craig Linberg. We had on the show recently, who does a lot of the effects. So what is it about him that you like to work with him? And how did you guys get together in the first place?
Well, I have a much better memory about this than Craig does.
All right.
Listen to the interview. I took out an ad in Backstage around 1990, a year after Slime City played its midnight run and came out on video. I had a vampire film called Undying Love. They had some very simple blood effects. I didn't want to do another big effects show. He responded. I managed a movie theater on 86th Street in Manhattan at the time. He met me at the theater. We went around the corner to a Chinese restaurant. He showed me his portfolio. And in that portfolio was this puppet he had made. It was a zombie skeleton puppet. There was a full head and shoulders and part of the chest. And he could make the mouth move. I was like, I've got this project, Johnny Gruesome. So we met, sort of became friends, and I discussed that project all in the first meeting way back in 1990. And he worked on the film, and I loved working with him. And he worked on my next film, Naked Fear. And he worked on some other films like Rock and Roll Frankenstein. And there came a point when he was working on all these, micro-budget horror films where he just got kind of depressed with the lack of care of some of the filmmakers. Not just the lack of money, but the fact that they didn't seem to really give a shit. And I remember him telling me, that's it, I'm going to get into the union and work on better productions. And in no time at all, he got into the union and started working on bigger productions. And I moved to Buffalo, so it's not like it would have been easy for him to work on my low-budget films. But as he said in the interview, a couple of times I contacted him about contributing pieces, which he would send to Buffalo, and then our guys here would apply them and do whatever had to be done with them. He created the face for the creature in The Legend of Six Fingers, which Sam Qualiana directed and I produced. And for Slime City Massacre, he did a number of very cool gags, some of the best gags in the film, and sent them on. And so we had that relationship. And I think once I went back to New York City and we got together, our families, we have one of those relationships where we've known each other for 30 years. We may not see each other face to face in 8 years, but when we do, it's just like no time has passed. Mm-hmm. So when Johnny Gruesome came along, I was actually looking at a local effects person to do the effects, just because it's extra money to bring somebody to town and put them up in a hotel. And this guy was very good and would have done a good job, but he was obsessed with making his own short films. I kept contacting him and saying, I need a budget. And he would say, I haven't had time. I'm doing this sound mix. I can't wait to show you this short film. And there came a point where I had money in the bank and I had to make a movie and I just wasn't getting what I needed. So I called Craig sort of at a moment of desperation and said, what are you doing this summer? And as it turned, because I knew Saturday Night Live was off in the summer. And as it turned out, his family was in Japan for the summer and he was kind of home alone. And it just worked out that he was able to do the work and come out here. And we had a great time. He did a fantastic job. And it was also educational for some of the other makeup people, not effects people, but makeup people who worked on professional shows here. But he was able to teach them a lot of things about coloring and painting, and they loved him. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
So, Johnny Gruesome himself, he kind of rots away throughout the movie. So there's, the makeup progresses throughout, and that's really cool to watch, I think, in the movie. How hands-on are you for the look of Johnny Gruesome?
Over the years, there have been a lot of interpretations. I had 2 different artists do online comics. We had an artist do illustrations for the novel. The book was published twice. Different artists did those. And I was always kind of open to seeing different interpretations. there's certain basics. He's a heavy metal kid, so he's got long hair. He's rotting, so his face is falling apart. You know, the basics are there. He's got some claw marks on his face from where one of his victims fights back. So those basics are there, and I sent Craig like descriptions from the novel for him to read. But I gave him freedom to go off on his own. One thing that took a lot of faith on my part is Craig is a great sculptor. He's a great painter, but he doesn't draw at all. So he could never send me a sketch saying this is what it looks like. He does sculpting in clay on the face cast of the actor. And when you see one of these things, you know, there's lumps, there's texture, there's different things, but it hasn't been colored. So you have no idea what they look like. So he would send me pictures of these and say, "What do you think?" I was like, We would discuss color schemes, and I just had to hope for the best, but I had total faith in him. And when he showed up with the silicone, you know, all these different faces, and he could put the faces on Anthony's face cast and show me this is basically what he's going to look like. And then I had a much better idea, although still, when you don't see the actor's eyes, it's still sort of a blank slate. Mm-hmm. But it's very exciting every day, you know, to see what the makeup was going to be. And, you know, the best night for me was when we shot the climax of the film, which is something I've been dreaming of for forever. And the look was perfect, and the actors were great, and couldn't have been better. Yeah. You know, experience.
Very cool. So, yeah. And I've been talking to him since we had him on the show. And from my understanding, he's going to be at Buffalo, your festival.
Well, that's good, because we are going to do the one theatrical screening at the festival, non-competition, obviously. So he'll finally get to see it on a big screen. And quite honestly, no one has seen the finished version on a big screen. We did a cast and crew screening where we brought all the extra. We did two, actually, back to back. But the sound, it was our first time hearing the sound in a theater, so we went back and made some changes to the audio. So this will be the first time the final version is in a speaker with a full surround, a theater with a full surround and everything.
Oh, wow. That's very cool. So Robby Takac, sorry about that. Robby Takac of the Goo Goo Dolls put out the song "Dying Tonight" on Spotify, and how did he get involved in doing the music for the movie? We're doing that song for the movie.
Spotify, iTunes, all the major platforms. It was released today. Mm-hmm. Well, Armand, who did my score, and Joe, the two of them did the score together. They've worked for Manowar. They've worked for 10,000 Maniacs, Goo Goo Dolls. The two of them and Robby are like the three biggest figures in the music industry here in Buffalo. So they're good friends, and they've worked together many times. And, you know, I had songs for the movie already. I had my friends do this whole rock CD to promote the book 10 years ago. And I used 6 of the 8 songs from that CD in the movie. And one of the songs was always supposed to be the theme song. And when I brought Armand on, I said, "Okay, you can do the score. I don't need any songs." And he completely forgot about it and came to me one day and said, "Okay, guess who's going to do our theme song?" Well, I told you I don't need a theme song. And he said, "Robby Takac, the Goo Goo Dolls." You know, my partner, John Renna, my wife, who's the producer, was like, "Oh, you've got to do this." And I'm glad we did, but it was definitely not what I was thinking of doing. I've got these songs already here. I don't have to deal with anything. So then we get in the whole thing of the song getting written, and when are we recorded, and we got to go back and redo the drums, and it was a whole big production. Quite honestly, getting it finished, but it's an awesome song, and you know, hopefully it'll draw some attention to the movie.
Yeah,
I was there when they did the recording. So once in my life, I've been in a studio with an actual rock star recording something related to my project.
Yeah. How about the other music in the movie? How was that chosen?
Well, all the other songs were from that CD, the Johnny Gruesome CD. It's about 10 years old.
Oh, okay.
There's one little snippet of a song by April Land, who plays the girlfriend in the film, Johnny Gruesome's girlfriend. And I actually she's another person who sent me her headshot and like some scene study videos, but she had no experience. She'd just gotten out of school. And she's another person who, when I watch her music video, I was like, wow, she's got a great look. And I just loved her music videos. So I said, okay, we're going to take a chance on her. And then I asked, you know, I watched this video so many times. Can I use some of this song? And she said, sure.
That's very cool. So I mentioned the Buffalo Festival, Buffalo Dreams Fantastic Film Festival, a couple minutes ago. That's coming up early November. And how long have you been doing this?
This is the 6th year that it's operated under the title Buffalo Dreams. It's me and my partner, Chris Ioli. It ran for 3 years before that as Buffalo Screams, and then we had a third partner. But we wanted to ditch that third partner, and the only way to do it was to create an all-new festival. So we've been doing it. This will be the 9th year we've been doing a festival.
Very cool. So you said that you get like 500 submissions?
This is the first year we hit 500. Last year we came close. It goes up each year. And I'm told that by the time you hit year 10, and that would be year 10 of Buffalo Dreams, not year 10 of the two combined,
sure,
you get enough submissions to cover all your expenses and stuff.
Oh, wow. Excellent. So do you personally watch all 500?
It depends on whether or not I have a project going. When Johnny Gruesome we shot in July. So I had all of August to watch stuff, and I think I brought in someone to watch shorts, a couple of my friends to watch shorts that year, and then I think we used them again last year, and we used one of them this year. I shot Widow's Point in August, and that means I'm in pre-production July and June. So that's 3 months that I don't have any time to watch movies. So I had somebody watching the shorts, a friend named Julian Dickman. I watch all the features, because I do the scheduling, and I build it around the features that we show. And then we just know we have certain blocks that are just for shorts that I can fill in. Once he makes his recommendations, then I watch them all and whittle down the list or add some to them.
Mm-hmm. So I've noticed in the last few years that shorts have really gotten a lot more popular. So have you noticed that yourself through the festival? That seems like shorts, or maybe they've always been that way. I don't know. That
we've done it, and before that, when I attended a festival called Erie Horror Film Festival, what I know is that if you have a block of shorts and half of them are filmmakers who show up or bring their friends, that's how you pack a house. Mm-hmm. Now, if you get 10 people for each short in a block, then hopefully you'll fill up the theater. So there's an economic incentive to do it. Although I will say, in our case, we show most of our shorts on weekday afternoons. So there's not really an opportunity to get a huge crowd there. We show them because we want to show more than just features, and we want to show weird international films. And mm-hmm. The way our festival generally works is for the first 3 days, we pack in a lot of films, a lot of great films where the filmmakers often come out of town. And then on the week, we tend to show a lot of local features and short films in the day. And hopefully we make our money on the weekend, because stuff slows down dramatically on the weekdays. Mm-hmm. But there's a diehard base that loves to sit there and watch short films.
Mm-hmm. Did you always get so many international films, like submissions?
Everything increased. I mean, the first year, I think we got maybe 60 submissions, and that was even with us reaching out to people. But we generally have set out to try and do a third local films, a third national, and a third international. We were early champions of Isaac Esbon, who did the Similars, and what the hell was this great movie? Now he's got a movie out called Parallel, which is his first English language filmmaker. He's a Mexican filmmaker, and he's developing a Dan Simmons novel, like a major motion picture. So, I mean, I knew from the time I saw his first short that he was going to be a star, and I knew from the time I saw his first feature that he was the most talented filmmaker I've ever met.
Wow. Is that fun for you to see people grow throughout the years of the festival?
Yeah, I love seeing an amazing film and then promoting it and trying to get people to come see it.
Right.
Isaac, we brought him out 3 times. We did a retrospective of his work. The local press has supported him. We've never sold out a show for him, but we've had easily more than 100 people show up to watch his movies. Now I've seen photos of him at major major festivals like Sitges and things like this, and there must be 500 people sitting in that audience. Sold out shows, and he could have more. So, no, I'm not exaggerating. He's on the level of Del Toro. He's going to be a major force in the business.
Wow. So he has. Does he have a film this year then at the festival?
We couldn't get the film at the distributor. Play at smaller festivals. He was up for it. In fact, last year we had him tape a message for our audience because he's got so many fans here now. So we're happy for him. And, every year that we brought him out, I've said, you're going to be so big, there's going to be a point that they're not going to let you come here.
Right.
That is what's happened.
yeah. I've said that to some guests on the show, and it's happened. But so I hate to ask, do you have any standouts from this year? Because that probably puts you in a bad predicament to point out anybody's films that you think are better than anybody else's. But do you have anything that you do think is a highlight this year that people should come out to see?
How about if I pick 5?
There you go.
5 outstanding movies, not necessarily the 5 most outstanding movies, but 5 outstanding movies. I'll Take Your Dead from Black Fawn Films. They've done a lot. They're a Canadian team that's done a lot of great films, and after Isaac, they're probably our most regular filmmakers. It's about a guy whose job is to dispose of bodies. He lives in a house with his daughter, and gangbangers and stuff, when they kill somebody, will bring the body to him and pay him, and he'll get rid of the body. Mm-hmm. And the daughter has the ability to communicate with spirits, and things go awry when the gangbangers drop off a body of a woman who turns out not to be dead, but they don't know she's not dead. So now him and the daughter have to protect her from the gangbangers who are coming back, and there's this whole supernatural undercurrent. These guys, Black Fawn Films, they are major talent, and the quality of the films they've done, like Bite, on $200,000 budgets, has been incredible. And the interesting thing about them is they had a 10-picture deal, a deal to make 10 films for $200,000. And for this one, I'll Take Your Dead, they said, what we really want to do, they went to the distributor, is take the budgets for 2 and make 1 film that's bigger than the other ones. So it's definitely their most accomplished film, and all of them look super professional. So that's an excellent film. We are doing the world premiere of Sam Qualiana's new film, Post-Apocalyptic Commando Shark, which is
an amazing name.
A comedy. It's I don't want to say a documentary, but it's in the style of those old World War II propaganda films. There is a narrator, there's different characters, different storylines. But basically, the Russians have taken over the U.S., and the Russian forces are led by humanoid sharks. And the resistance fighters are just the dumbest, pro-American, backwoods morons. and Sam made that comment to me. I mean, he's not a political person at all. I am. I just always think that whenever something bad happens, it's always the dumbest people who survive. Debbie Rashan is in that, and Michael O'Hare is in a bunch of my films. Very funny movie. An interesting movie. I'm basically giving you the first 5 features on the festival. That's what I'm doing. We have a local filmmaker named Hope Muehlbauer, who made a film, I want to say 3 years ago. She was 13. It took a couple of years to finish. She started out when she was 12. She made a 30-minute film called Zombie Kids the Movie, which was this cute movie about kids fighting zombies. But then the kids started getting killed, and by the end of the movie, people were in tears. I always knew that she was going to be a talented filmmaker. This film, I Dare You to Open Your Eyes, she started when she was 16. She finished it when she was 18. She just graduated high school. Very somber, nihilistic film that is sort of a combination anti-bullying film and a slasher film. Mm-hmm. Super mature work. Then we have a film called The Next Kill. We have the world premiere of that. And this is an action film. It's, I don't want to say superhero, but there is a mass vigilante. There is a serial killer. And they used that program that rotoscopes live action footage, so it looks animated.
Okay.
They did it. They did that with a Philip K. Dick book, like 10 years ago. And what that allows him to do is, the people obviously are moving like real people, but he can create backgrounds. So it's almost the only thing I could compare it to is that it's somewhat similar to Sin City in its impact. It's so visually striking.
Wow.
It's not live action figures over animated backgrounds. The live action actors have become animated. Really good film. And then the final one that I will recommend is called Clickbait. Filmmaking team, Michael J. Epstein and Sofia Coppola. They're a couple. I don't know if they're married. But these two have a really good thing going in that they're both musicians. They're both filmmakers. He, at least, is a published author. And they're just working on all these things all the time. And they freelance on the side. And they're just super prolific. And this film is... it's partly a satire on social media celebrities and partly a serial killer film. One of those films that's very funny, and yet the horror scenes, in my opinion, are almost Hitchcockian. The use of blood and shooting through opaque surfaces and just some really good filmmaking on hand.
Yeah, that's out of those ones, that's the ones I've seen is Clickbait. Friends with Michael and Sophia. They do some stuff for the website every once in a while. And I've had the whole cast on the show for Clickbait. And it's a great movie. I thought I like all their stuff, but I think it's their best movie so far.
Yeah, I really liked Blood of the Tribades. I think it was very deliberately a niche film, though. There's only so many fans of those Euro vampire lesbo films. Clickbait seems to be an effort to be a little more, not necessarily mainstream, but maybe a little more accessible to people. Beautiful cinematography, though. Really vivid colors and just really well directed.
Yeah, I agree. And plus Toot Strudels are very fun.
Yes, I wonder. I don't know if they're bringing any Toot Strudels. I think, we do Q&As whenever possible, whenever the filmmakers are present, and they did a great Q&A for Blood of the Tribades. We put that one on a Monday night, not knowing that they were going to come, and we had our core group of 15 or 20 people show up for it. And what I'll say about those people is that they really appreciate the filmmakers who come to town and then become friends with them on social media and never let go. You make a fan in Buffalo and you've got them for life.
So where can people go to find out about the whole lineup and all the information on Buffalo Dreams Fantastic Film Festival?
Right now, just our Facebook page. My partner Chris spent a week working his day job all day and all night at New York Comic Con. So our website isn't updated yet. It probably will be sometime next week. By the time the festival rolls around, there'll be all sorts of stuff on the website, but we're constantly updating the Facebook page, trailers, posters, all that. Yeah. We're showing, I think it came out to, it's 102 films total, and that's roughly 22 features and maybe 80 shorts.
Wow.
The line blurs because a lot of features these days are 70 minutes, which we call a short feature, or 72 minutes. There's some crossover over what you could classify one thing over the other.
Yeah, I've noticed that myself recently, that there are even 60-minute movies. And then what's your opinion on that? Do you think does it matter how long a movie is? Do you be considered a feature?
Our rule, which we play loose with, is that 75 minutes and up is a feature, and 75 minutes and below is a short feature. However, there are features that are 72 minutes, and if they're really good, then we will consider them a feature. Yeah. But we tend to pair, if we'll show a feature, we'll usually show a short with it. And if we show a 70-minute feature, we might show 3 shorts with it. So, we try and give a full block of programming regardless. I will say the ones that are kind of perplexing are like the 40-minute features, the 50-minute features.
Yeah.
They're short features. They're not long enough to really be released on their own. And it's kind of hard to promote them. Some of them are excellent. Some of them feel either too long or too short. Like it should be a short film, but it's too long. Or why didn't they just, spend an extra week and shoot more material because this is really good. Mm-hmm. So those are really the hardest ones to program. Where do I fit this 50-minute film in? Seb Godin did Slimoids we're showing. That's 49 minutes. We're going to show it as a bonus after the post-apocalyptic Commando Shark that have sort of similar sensibilities. But I agonize over where to stick that for a week. Yeah.
I'm glad that's going to be there. I did not notice that because I've been dying to see Slimoids and meet Seb. I've been on the show several times. Very cool. And we're going to get some video together when we're there. So I'm very interested in seeing Slimoids.
Should be quite a weekend of interesting people from my sphere attending. Seb, Craig Linberg, and those who get along great. Mm-hmm. Mark Makowski, who is my producer on my first 3 films, including Slime City. He comes every few years, and Mark is a very loud guy from the Bronx. He's a lot like Bill Lustig, I think.
Very cool. I just met Lustig for the first time. He's a great guy.
He's much nicer than he used to be. He's mellowed.
It was weird because actually when I had him on the show, people warned me, which I get warnings every once in a while if I book a guest. And but he's very nice to me. So I maybe, like you said, he's mellowed out over the years.
Well, I've never had any bad encounters, but I've heard I understand that you don't know which Bill Lustig is going to show up at an event, but when you're an elder statesman, let's say, and people really respect your work and really appreciate your older films, that means a lot to you. So, there's no reason not to show up and be friendly and charming.
Yeah. Were you, who were some of the directors that you knew, when you were making Slime City? Do you have any contemporaries that were making films around the same time in the same area?
Well, Jim Muro, who directed Street Trash, was in my class, and Roy Frumkus, who produced Street Trash, was our mutual teacher. And Slime City and Street Trash were supposed to be filmed the same summer. The difference was Roy knew how to raise $600,000 for Street Trash, and I did not know how to raise $50,000 for Slime City. So we ended up shooting a year later than them, and Jimmy actually worked on the film. So Jimmy certainly, Roy, even though he's a teacher, Frank Henenlotter, I was the assistant director on Brain Damage, but I worked on that after Slime City. Had I worked on Brain Damage before Slime City, it would have been a much better film. Mm-hmm. So those 3 guys certainly.
Yeah, that's very cool. So, what was your thinking when you started the Buffalo Dreams or Screams when it first started? But why did you start a film festival?
Well, there really wasn't a big film festival in Buffalo. There's a very good Jewish film festival. Now I know there's a Polish film festival and some smaller festivals. We have a big museum, Albright Knox Gallery here in Buffalo, so there is an arts community within the big football crowd. So I thought there was an opening for it, and certainly there was an opening for genre films. And I've just learned to love it. I love seeing films. I love discovering films. I love networking with the filmmakers. I have relationships with many filmmakers because I run a film festival that I would otherwise. There's not a huge community of feature film directors here. There's a growing crew base, but it's it's a very different relationship that you have with somebody who's a great gaffer than with somebody who's a writer-director. So I love having these people come to town. I've learned a lot from them. And, it's just cool. I like hanging out with them. I like showing the movies. It's a hell of a lot of work. It really is. This week I've been up till 4 a.m. every night. It was very fortunate for me that when I had to do most of my work, my editor was still organizing his stuff. So for a key week there, I didn't have to worry about my film so much.
Mm-hmm.
I could just focus on the festival. Otherwise, I would have been pulling my hair out.
Yeah. Is there any type of guide? You know, so you said genre film, but is there a certain type of movie you look for submissions?
Well, look, I like something that's interesting and original and exciting. It can be horror, sci-fi, action. We've taken straight dramas. It can be a comedy. It doesn't have to be, horror. We tend to get mostly horror. And like around here, people often say, oh, I didn't submit my film because you're just a horror festival. We go out of our way to have very eclectic programming so that if we see anything that is strikingly good, it fits in. It fits in with our programming, even if we have a slasher film before it and a block of animation features after it.
Yeah. How about that? Like that? How do you decide like what goes where? It's almost like a mixtape. You want things to flow.
Well, that's the challenge. You want to get some of your best films in opening weekend, but you don't want to have films that are clearly not the best films on the weekdays. So you have to have some great films on the week as well. One of the films we're showing has an unusual title. It's called Tommy Battles the Silver Sea Dragon. That's a mouthful to say. It's a mouthful to remember. And it's a musical. It's a drama that's a musical. And the filmmaker submitted that film to us last year, and I wanted it. I love this film so much. But he withdrew it and wanted to premiere it at a bigger festival like a month later. And sometimes that happens. And I said, okay, no problem. Just so you know, if you haven't been distributed yet, when we come around next year, I still want to show this film. One thing about us is we do not care if we have the premiere. A lot of festivals only want you if you're premiering their film. And I want films that are great. This is a great movie. We're showing it in the middle of the week so that we have longer time to promote it and prepare people. This is a very unusual film. This is something different, but you really want to see this. So, you do a lot of humping to try and get the right people to come to a film. And sometimes it pays off. And sometimes you only have 20 people sitting in a theater at 7:00. But as long as, let's say, 18 of those 20 people really like the film and are going to go out and talk about it, mission accomplished.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to going there. I just started doing the festivals really the beginning of this year. And I fell in love going to them because it's fun to, watch these movies, before a lot of people get to see them. And just like you said, you get to interact with the people who make the movies and other people who love the movies. And so I know last year when you had you on, you invited me to the festival. So I'm really looking forward to going there.
Well, we look forward to having you. And one thing that I'm very proud of about our festival is it's a very friendly festival. There's not like a distance between the attending filmmakers and the crowd. Everybody hangs out together. People go out and eat together. Genuine bonds are formed, and it's just a great atmosphere.
Cool. Yeah, I found that, so far I haven't done a lot of them, but the festivals I've been to have been like that. It's just it's just a good time all around for everybody.
And one thing we tried to do a little different this year, not so much on the weekend when I'm sure you'll be there, is we tried to have full half-hour intermissions between the films so people have time to go down to the food court and actually eat. That's a complaint that my regulars, and we have a handful of people who try to see everything. Mm-hmm. Usually they miss one film.
Right.
We have a handful of people like that, and every year I say, okay, I'm going to have full half-hour intermissions. But then I try and squeeze in shorts that I love because I just want to show as many as I can.
Right.
And next thing you know, there's 15-minute intermissions. And it makes it hard for those guys. So for them, we have longer intermissions this year.
Yeah. I was at Fright Fest in London a couple months ago. And it's an awesome festival. But they actually have movies playing at the same time in different theaters. And it's like it's physically impossible even if you wanted to watch all the movies. And I actually thought that's kind of a mistake because I would think people have to choose between what they want to watch, and you just can't watch certain things. And I still had a great time, but I like it to be able, if I wanted to watch everything,
well, that
at least be possible.
That is the Sundance model, and a lot of festivals try and emulate that. They try and have as many venues so they can show as many films. Some of them are good about showing each film twice so that you have a chance at least to maybe see everything. But I never wanted to do that. Number one, you need a lot of people to run a show like that. I don't want to be that big. I like being a single screen event. I like knowing this is our program. If you don't want to come see something, fine. But if you want to see everything, it's possible. Right. You got to give up your life, but it's possible. I like that one. And I also like, when filmmakers come to town, they support each other. So, you come see my film, I'm going to come see yours. Thanks so much. That's hard to do if you're pitted opposite each other. And on the bigger festivals who do this, I understand. For the smaller festivals, especially the horror film festivals that have 3 rooms showing movies at the same time and do it really just so they can have as many movies as possible, because as many movies as you have, those are filmmakers who may go out and recommend you the next year and they'll bring in more submissions. I just don't want to do it that way. I want to focus on one film at a time, one filmmaking team at a time, and just really make it sort of an organic thing.
Cool. Yeah, I'll actually be there the whole week. All 7 days. Week? Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
That's very generous of you.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to get fun. So listen, what was...
The words I want you to remember. Beef on Weck.
Beef on Weck.
Everyone comes to Buffalo and says, "Oh, I got to have the buffalo wings." And they say, "Oh, I got to go to the Anchor Bar. That's the place that invented wings. The Anchor Bar sucks. You can go to a place called Duff's. We'll set you straight."
All right.
What I really want is the beef on Weck. This is freshly cut, hot roast beef served on salty Kemmelwick bread with horseradish.
That sounds good.
Most likely the first one you have, I'll be with you because we like to take the visiting people out to eat. And I get a certain thrill. See, when you're in a movie, watching a movie, you don't know until you hear the audience laugh or you see the Q&A, you don't know how it went over. But I can sit up at a table opposite someone like yourself and wait and just look at the way your eyes will change when you take that first bite of a Weck. And I really get satisfaction out of that.
Yeah, that's excellent. It's funny because Jason, my friend Jason, who does our reviews on the website, we're going to be going there together, and we always like the movies and food. So we find places that we're going to go eat. And I actually did look up exactly what he said. It's like, oh, the Anchor Bar, they invented the buffalo wings.
Yeah, no, they suck. Not only are they not the best, they're pretty piss poor, and it's a tourist trap. There's one right across the street from the venue and the hotel, so I mean it's there if you want it. But there is a Duff's inside the mall, and so that's probably where you're going to go. I'm endorsing them because they're good. They won't give us a discount, so kind of fuck their management. I'm really not hawking for them. I'm just thinking about you, Duff's.
All right.
But when you go to Duff's, you're going to see beef on Weck in the menu. Don't do it. Stick to the wings. Beef on Weck. We're going to send you to a little place called Charlie the Butcher's.
All right.
And you're going to remember. It's funny. One of the filmmakers coming is an actress named Ruth Reynolds, who's come a couple of years. And last week, she just happened to be passing through Buffalo, and she messaged me and said, "Hey, what was the name of that place? I'm just passing through Buffalo, and we have to stop there."
That's awesome.
So, what movie are you filming right now?
I just finished shooting a movie called Widow's Point, which is about a haunted lighthouse. It's based on a book by Richard Cheesemar and his son, Billy Cheesemar. Richard owns Cemetery Dance Publications, the biggest independent horror press. They do a lot of limited editions of Stephen King and stuff. He also wrote a great episode of Masters of Horror, of the Washingtonians.
Oh, yeah, I love that one.
Yeah,
and he doesn't brag about this, but he wrote the script for Roadhouse 2. So he's
Roadhouse 2.
He's a pretty accomplished publisher and author. He's a New York Times bestselling author, and he's invested in a lot of my films, like Killer Rack. He invested some money in, And we've always talked about doing something together. And he gave me an advance copy of this novella. And I said, look, if you're serious, let me adapt the script because I know I'll do it fast. And then we can go from there. And he loved the script that I did. And I've been working on a project for a few years with Craig Sheffer, who was, the star of Nightbreed. And he's the star of this movie.
Oh.
And it's far and away like a whole different level for me. It blows Johnny Gruesome away.
Oh, very interesting. When do you think, maybe it's too early to say, but when do you think people will be able to see it?
I expect we'll be finished at the end of the year, and then we will make a decision whether we want to hold out for like a major festival like Fantasia to do a premiere, or if we want to go straight for distribution.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Looking forward to that. So it's always awesome to have you back here on the show. We'll have to do it more often if you're up to it. But I'm looking forward to seeing you and seeing the movies coming up in Buffalo. And I really dug
seeing
Johnny
that
Gruesome.
Sandwich too.
I have to admit, yeah. People, I know this might come to a surprise if people have seen me, but I do like to eat. So I'm looking forward to the sandwich.
I also surprise people that way. So are you going to interview filmmakers and stuff? Are you going to?
Yeah. I hope so. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Who's that? I'm sorry.
And then write it off on your taxes, hopefully.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
It's a plan. I like it. Oh, that's good. We'll start letting people know you'll be there then.
Yeah. I hope to get us up to doing as many interviews as possible. That'd be fun.
Because press that attends the festival, and stays for a bit. Usually they come for a weekend. A week is awesome. They're treated just like filmmakers. You're royalty.
Excellent. I like that. It's very good. That's gonna go to my head. I feel like the king.
It doesn't get you free popcorn, and this theater does have fantastic popcorn.
I cannot eat popcorn. It's I have diverticulitis, and I had to have 14 inches of my colon removed because I got very sick. So, and that's the main thing I cannot eat is popcorn. So,
but horseradish is okay.
The horseradish is fine. Yeah.
Right.
Just nothing that will stick in me.
I can't eat popcorn either, but it's only because I managed movie theaters for 12 years, and the smell.
Oh, yeah. So you know what the butter really is. That's one thing I miss actually, and because I can't eat seeds, corn, nuts, that stuff. I'm not. But if I'm in a movie theater and I do smell a popcorn, I do think, man, that smells good. But I know I can't eat it. But
this theater uses real butter. They melt it down. They buy it in the sticks. They melt it down, and
those are always my favorite. The real butter places.
I guess technically I could chew it up and then spit it out, but I don't think I want to sit next to me. I'm just spitting popcorn back into the bucket.
I have one other word for you, and this is really public service for all the filmmakers attending the festival, because I'm going to be promoting this appearance on the Facebook page. Mm-hmm. This word sounds like two, but it's one. Loganberry. Loganberry is a berry that only grows in Western New York and in Ontario, Canada. And so we make this fruity, sweet drink out of Loganberries.
That sounds good.
So when you have your wings or your beef on Weck, you may be tempted to have a beer, and that's fine, but start with Loganberry.
All right. I actually did write down all these notes. I have beef on Weck, Charlie the Butcher Stuffs, and Loganberry now in my notes.
We actually provide everybody with a list of these things.
Very good.
Part of the service we offer.
You're a good man.
I'll tell you a funny story. Was it last year? Last year, we had some filmmakers come out with a really cool film. Some Texas filmmakers. Ford Austin was one of them. And Ford heard how great the beef on Weck was. And I think they had a Monday night screening, and they wanted a sellout. And I was like, guys, you're not going to have a sellout on a Monday night. I'm sorry. Ford said, I'm going to buy beef on Weck for everybody who comes. So they had Charlie the Butchers bring this whole buffet of beef on Weck. And, I did my ethical best and told him I didn't think it was going to create a sellout crowd. What it meant was that I got to have beef on Weck for a week after the film. And it was awesome. Every day, 2 or 3 times Hey, it's probably for my heart.
Just Googled Charlie the Butcher, and it comes up right away. Charlie the Butcher carving beef on Weck.
Nice.
Very good. I'm looking forward to this. All right. Well, it was great having you on, Greg, and look forward to meeting you.
Awesome. Nice meeting you, Terrible.
Yep. Always a pleasure. Wish you all the best. Good luck with the festival, and good luck with Nasty Neil there.
All right. We'll get Troy out to Buffalo one of these days.
Right, well, you're going to come back. You're going to have a great time. You're going to come back and you're going to say, yeah, we all have to go next year.
Okay. I like that.
All right.
Hi, this is Carl Stryken, the fireman from Twin Peaks, and you're listening to Without Your Head.